Mr. Danny Nas, would you like to kick us off?
Sure thing. In full disclosure, I haven't been paying too much attention to the indexes this week, mainly because we have our monthly options expiration on Friday, and generally that during that week, regardless of what else is going on, it tends to be a bit of a choppy week. So during these weeks, I really just like to focus on individual names that I'm looking at. And I have to say, yesterday and today, probably the two best back to back days I've had in quite some time. Just was able to kind of watch flow, get into the right trades, and just take advantage of some of these monster runners that we've had. Monday and Tuesday so far. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting too much this week. In all honesty, we had a bit of a choppy day yesterday. We had a bit of a choppy, kind of a choppy day again today. Although we didn't close at near the highs, it looks like we have a pretty decent close on the Qs. The SPY as well was positive for the day. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not really going to be focusing too much on the indexes this week, only because of that monthly options expiration. But yeah, I'm just going to be focusing on individual names, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the trades I took when we go around and talk about what we're looking at for this week. But still had some nice earnings this week. It's getting to the tail end of earnings, so a lot of the big names are out of the way, but there's still some interesting names that are going to be reporting. So, yeah, I mean that's pretty much what I'm looking at.
Perfect. Appreciate that, Danny. Uh, I love when you can get good information inside of conciseness. Works super well. And interesting to hear, that's like the third person that sends me these last 2 weeks were still some of their best that they've ever had. Wasn't for me personally, but that's why we're here. Like, to everyone in the audience, it's okay if you're having a rough struggle right now with this market, right? Like, it's never easy, but that's why we do this, where we come and we listen to each other and we exchange. That way we can learn moving forward. It's just by far the best way to do this. All right, Angie, you want to go next?
Yeah, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for having me. Yeah, so I'm seeing a lot of red flags, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, this stuff that I haven't seen in a long time that's starting to happen. Right now, my trend model is at a positive 3. So, from that perspective, everything looks good. The markets are going up today, but I'm starting to see some weird stuff. So, the first one is that the dollar index is completely breaking out. So the dollar index right now, it's trading at levels last seen in, I believe it was July of 2020. And whenever you see the dollar index breaking out like that, that can be a big headwind for equities. So in terms of the currency market, starting to see some oddities. And then in terms of the bond market, I'm seeing another huge red flag, which is the MOVE index, which measures treasury volatility. That's really just breaking to new highs. And I was taking a look at 10-year Treasury futures throughout the session. The 10-year Treasury futures literally like broke down below support today. So that's another thing where with Treasury yields, we remember this, from February of 2021, when Treasury yields start to move higher and the market's pricing in maybe like more inflation, maybe the Fed will have to hike rates. That is not good for growth stocks, high valuation stocks. And the action that we've seen over the past 2 days, I would say, it's very odd because we literally have bonds breaking down. We have the dollar index breaking out, and now we have the crypto markets, which are really coming under pressure. And for me, like, today, it's not like it was a bad day or anything. My portfolio always fluctuates up and down. I'm pretty heavily invested in the crypto markets. So whenever the crypto markets are correcting, I always feel that. But yeah, we're seeing like Bitcoin went from about like 66K, now it's down at around 60K. So a good 10% correction in Bitcoin. A lot of times throughout this year and last year, the cryptocurrency markets, they're a really good bellwether for, is the market risk on or risk off? A lot of times, crypto moves have led equity moves. So, like for instance, like about a month or so ago, we had that September correction. Bitcoin and Ethereum started emerging from that correction, quite a bit sooner than equities, and that's what really got me more bullish on equities. When a lot of other people were still, super scared of being in the equity market. Now we're seeing the opposite, where crypto markets are starting to break down a little bit, and we have VIX expiration tomorrow. So whenever we have like the VIX expiration, and then we have the options expiration, a lot of times the market can move around a little bit more. So yeah, I'm definitely in a seller's mindset here, for sure. Like, I'm not really, for the next couple of days, I'd much rather just see how things play out. It doesn't mean like, something bad has to happen, but I always like playing when I feel like the deck is just completely stacked in my favor. And right now I'm looking at this and I'm like, this deck is not stacked in my favor.
It's an interesting take, and it's cool that you're using the crypto markets as the bellwether. And then also, I think you came into this last week where you were, uh, long AMC, short the SPY, you rode the dips, continuing to utilize your models. It's really interesting. I'm excited to get into the individual picks that you think will continue to weather one way or the other. Let's keep it rolling. Mel, you want to go next?
Hey, Gav. Thanks for having me on. I hope everybody's having a good evening and had a great day. Just wanted to kind of show something. I think the discussions last week was really a lot of comments and mentions about seasonality, which, I love being able to look at, other things to confirm your thesis and taking in all the components and all the data and information that we have when we're looking to take trades. And I went a little bit granular and then took it down from, just not only being the monthly, and with TrendSpider, you can actually go to weekly. And so shared a chart that just kind of shows a little bit of improvement going into this week, where we were about 50% on each of them last week. You got the SPY percentage closes positive about 67% of the time. So that's still going to be more of an indication of chop. And then we go into next week with positive closes 100% of the time. The Qs, similar scenario, 67% for this current week, going up to 78%. And then the IWM, 67% going up to 100%. So I think that, knowing that we have OPEX and mirroring what some others are saying as far as what we have coming up for the end of this week, we may still be in more of a choppy mindset. Not seeing any flow that would guide us there. Friday was absolutely amazing, especially if you're a flow trader. The information that we got was just so telling. They kept rolling up with size into SPY and Q. They continued to hit strikes with like several $100,000 for same day expiration, and it was continuing to come in, And so it was just really neat to be able to see that. We are so lucky and blessed when we have days like those, because it just tends to be that like easy money, it seems like. But real reality is it's not every day, and not seeing anything that's really showing conviction either way in the options flow to kind of give us any telltale signs of where we're directionally going to be going throughout the end of this week.
Always good to hear about where the money is going and that people are continuing to pile into this market and not showing any indication of a necessary slowdown. I'm glad we have you monitoring that. And also, Mel, I see you posted some stuff up top, so everyone should make sure to check that out. There's some money flow stuff up there. Okay, thank you, Mel. Juicy, thank you for popping in. Would love to hear your thoughts on market sentiment right now.
What's going on, guys? Overall, and again, thanks for everybody for having me. Overall, what we're looking at, for me, in my perspective, we're looking at pretty much a sideways market, but this is to be expected, especially after that whole, what you want to call it, a 15-day uptrend with everything in the market was just going straight up in the air. So the market's definitely going to have to consolidate. It's going to have to churn and breathe off some energy. So if you look at SPY, SPY on the weekly, you got what's known as the inside week. You got 470, 73 is your upside trigger to go long. And you have your downside trigger 462.07. So in the middle of that, I would really expect the overall market, the overall indice go where or very far. Now that doesn't mean we're going to sell off or we're going to rally, but while we're in the middle, there's still opportunities inside the market. Like today, we saw a lot of money coming into all these chips. You guys saw QCOM today. This thing was a absolute fire breathing dragon. And then you have a lot of flow coming into Nvidia, but you do have earnings coming out. Now after hours, we're seeing a lot of A lot of talk, social sentiment around FSR, Lucid, all these EV names. It looks like they're coming back to life. So there, in my opinion, there will be opportunities in limited sectors. But again, in this choppy market, especially as Danny says, you got OPEX on Fridays. You really want to stick to your edge, right? Whatever your edge is, if you're a short-term trader and you're trading inside breaks or wedges, you got to really nail down on that edge and focus, because this is not the same market we saw 3 weeks ago. It's way different. So overall, I expect chop, but there's going to be certain sectors that are going to move, and we can get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear, the takes on the pullbacks that we may experience, the seasonality, that it's a different market than it was. And I think I'm excited to hear about why that is. Different from just the price action, because I feel like there really is more that, stands out than just the price action right here. Because when you look at it, we're back at all-time highs pretty much, but yet there's hesitation. So I think that's where it becomes interesting. Okay, let's keep it rolling. Vegas, thank you for joining us again. How was your birthday?
Hi everyone. Oh, birthday was nice. It goes by really fast. So we gotta enjoy life. So thank you so much. Yeah, so you know what? The market's been great. Last couple of days, it's been really good. I will say that, I definitely follow a lot of money flow and dark pool. And I mean, even, when I'm looking at the SPY, the QQQ, they look pretty strong to me for now. I was quite impressed. IWM was looking a little bit weaker than those two, but definitely, I am watching a lot of the markets, different sectors, and just focusing really on momentum plays and the ones where I'm seeing a lot of good action, and not really going too far out. There's options expiry, obviously, this Friday. So definitely looking at some, December calls, January calls. I have some interesting ideas to share later on when we go through the roundtable discussion for some good setups, probably for December, January. So there won't be any kind of like OPEX implications, and some really good setups that I'm watching. And just focused on really where the action is, and just keeping it light, not going super heavy right now until options expiry is over. But right now, I mean, I'm just following the flow. And so that's where I'm targeting is, where is the money going? Where's the action? And, focusing on the runners. And even, even today for some day trades, because sometimes, you may not want to swing. So I like to trade a lot of, opportunities when the earnings have been out of the way, and then trade once the earnings are done, and day trade the earnings action, depending on the market sentiment that morning when the market opens.
Seems like a reoccurring theme here is this option expiry. So I think a lot of people probably don't fully grasp what that topic is alluding to. So once we make it through all the speakers, I think we should take maybe a couple minutes to focus on that, as well as a couple other items that I'm seeing trends here with. Okay, let's keep it going. Stock Talk Weekly. Appreciate you joining us again. Another space. I think it's our second of today, but multiple this week already. It's great to get those in. Would love to hear your thoughts on market sentiment. I know you had a very hot day today.
Yeah. Today was a huge day for me. Second biggest day of the year, one of the biggest days for me in several years. But we just had a lot of runners today that I've been waiting on to go on big moves for a while. I was in Lucid, IonQ, and TRT today. They all ran over 30%. So, it was a huge day. But, outside of that, just from a market sentiment perspective, I like markets like this. That might be contrary to the trading styles of a lot of people, but I like chop because chop gives me volatility, and it tends, a chop when the broader market is choppier. What tends to happen is you get these sector themes that get really hot because the spare liquidity in the market is chasing these themes, and this week especially, and maybe even over the course of the last few weeks, EVs have been a big one. People have made boatloads of money on Lucid, Rivian, Tesla, Fisker, GGPI. These stocks have been ripping. So, looking at it from that perspective, me as a theme focused trader and somebody who I try to nimbly get in and out of sectors, when they're hot and try to capitalize. I like to get the meat of the move. So, you know, outside of names where they're high conviction names and I'm swinging them for several months or longer in some cases, outside of those names, most of my money is going to playing themes, playing momentum, playing volume uptrends. And so I like markets like this because they're fickle and, they like a theme one day and they might like it for a week and then they like another theme. And it's good for me because, my swing trading and day trading accounts love that because, I constantly have liquidity to buy names. The thing is when sectors heat up and you have this kind of market heat seeking where it's, tagging these sectors one at a time or sometimes all at once, multiple at once. But when the market's doing this and you're moving your liquidity around, you're able to identify new opportunities in new themes. So, if let's say EVs are hot and you find a stock that's lagging peers, you buy it at a relatively lower risk entry than the other ones that are already running. Market finds it, drives it higher. Boom, you got the meat of the move there. Then, the next week, if a catalyst or news event or policy decision is driving liquidity to another sector, you take that liquidity and compound it on a move by doing the same strategy in a different theme. So, I that's what I like to do. And so when I see these highly volatile markets where you have chop in the major indices, I enjoy it. I tend to make more money in these kind of markets than I do, when they're just going either straight up or straight down, right? If I have a definitive theme in mind for where the indices are going, right? If they're on a strong uptrend that doesn't look like it's going to be stopped, then I'll get longer on positions for longer amounts of time. But, in these scenarios, I'm very liquid, constantly moving to new targets. And then when I find, gems in the rough, I'm leaving the liquidity there for a little bit longer, maybe leaving the allocation there for a little bit longer, maybe getting exposure with options on some of those names. But yeah, I'm very in and out of these different sectors. So I enjoy a market like this. I think you see chop continuing probably all the way through January and February. Um, I don't actually, I kind of maybe disagree with some of the other speakers in terms of headwinds for the market. I think a lot of tapering and potential changes in the yield curve are baked in. I'm not sure that they're entirely baked in, but I think a lot of them are. I think the market is really forward looking towards interest rate changes, which we know are coming either middle of next year, end of next year, or early 2023, depending on which member of the Fed you ask. But, even if they come middle of next year, I'll start adjusting my portfolio to be more risk off as rate changes become a more real present possibility. When the markets are running and there's sectors that are running, I capitalize on those for as long as I can. Like, in 10 years of doing this, I've tried to perfectly time my exposures before and be like, hey, I only want to be long, on these periods of the year, or oh, the market's overextended. I want to wait for a pullback. And almost every time, I've been wrong when I've been that conservative in my approach. And so, especially over the last 6, 7 years where, in my first 10 years of trading, out of my first four, only 2 out of 4 were profitable. But the last 6 years have all been profitable and I've outperformed the indices 6 years straight. So, I've done that by being more nimble with my liquidity and by playing themes and not like, you know, thinking of myself as some genius that can predict like, hey, equities are overextended or the market's overextended. Like newsflash, the market's overextended every year and that narrative gets spit every year. And yeah, maybe is it historically overvalued? Of course, but that's how highs happen. Stocks set new all-time highs over and over and over again. They have for the history of the stock market. So I don't care about chop. I like it. I like trading it. And when it's not choppy, I'll play the trend and I'll get longer for longer periods of time or shorter for longer periods of time, depending on which direction it's going. So yeah, I enjoy this market a lot. I know to some it feels like a casino, but if you're a trader that knows how to read levels, knows how to read charts, knows how to read rotations and sectors, volume uptrends, this is a very favorable market for you, in my opinion.
Really interesting perspective there. With the chop and the markets and trading a bit of a different style. I feel like, there a lot of the people up here on this panel, if anyone that's in the audience, are full-time investors, traders. That's how they make a living for many of them. But although they're all doing that, they have very different styles, is what I've seen, and they target different areas of the market, whether that be growth, SPACs, indices. So I think that there's a lot to learn from those different styles, and we're about to dig in more to that once we get through the last couple of our speakers with market sentiment. Evan, Stock Market News, would love to hear your thoughts on the current market.
I think a lot was said already, and me and you kind of take a similar stance into this, where we're much more longer term investors. I've been doing the long term investing thing for a good bit, 5 to 7 years. The trading aspect of it, being on this stuff every day and talking about it every day, is something newer for me. The biggest thing that stood out for me is I've definitely seen the choppiness, but I've also seen like a bunch of stocks have been running recently, and when they get good news or when that type of things happen, we're still getting, I'm going to say blow off tops, but stuff is running more than it should. And it still seems that maybe an aspect of liquidity and everything like that in the market, but we're still seeing a bunch of runners, still seeing a lot of opportunities. And I'm excited to kind of dig in a little deeper going through this.
100%. Yeah, I agree with you. I think we're in the same boat here. Okay, Shark, is there anything you want to add? I know that I appreciate you being up here, brother. I know it's a little sick over there. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, sorry, my voice just isn't. I don't want to ruin the vibe because everyone's dropping some good knowledge. But one thing that I probably piggyback off of off Stock Talk during this time. This is actually some of the stuff when I do make the most money in the market because I do see a lot of volatility. So I'm a little bit different. Like when I look at a chart where some people will be like they're looking for a directional move up or they're looking for a directional move down. I use a lot of the option flow to find and see where money's flowing to, and then I basically kind of target those, and then I kind of channel trade it in a sense. So I'm looking for it to trade out of a channel for a big pop off if it breaks, but then also when it's bouncing off levels from point A to point B, if you do proper pivots and all that kind of stuff, that's actually where things, especially lately, they've been kind of bouncing off their strong pivots pretty well. And at the same time, like today, I played Peloton, Uber, and I've been actually swinging TDT or TDD. It's just been something for me that I've seen a lot of options flow kind of going with them, and I just been playing price action. So what I do is I look and build a specific high probability pivot where if it does break, there's a high likelihood that they'll get percentage moves on the underlying, which would just be amplified using the option. And that's been working really well. Like I'm not just really during earnings season. I always trade and I always day trade during this time. I don't really do any long term or swings or anything. And for anyone that's new, I really suggest you going building some kind of like trader business plan. So every single year, I build literally my business plan for the year, and it kind of guides me and lets me know what to do during that time. So every single year for the last probably 6 or 7 years during earnings season, especially when big time people are reporting, I like to be playing more in the price action and the volatility on the either up or downside. I'm not going to pick either way. I'm just going to set my levels, and when they break and I see them break with price action and substantial volume, I'm going to take it. And Lucid today was a perfect example. So so sorry if my voice is a little bad, but appreciate everyone here.
Appreciate you, Shark. Yeah, definitely seems like that has been a consistent strategy. Now, before we get into the individual stock picks, there were, I think, like two main topics that I wanted to hit on. So first, Danny, I'd love to throw it back to you to just explain what's happening with the option expiry date and why that's going to affect the market.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not the expert on options up on the panel, but basically the third Friday of the contract month is when the monthly expirations expire. So you have some stocks that are going to have weekly and monthly expirations, and there's other stocks that are only going to have monthly expirations. But the weeks of the monthly expirations tend to be very choppy. But maybe Juicy could speak more eloquent about the monthly expiration.
No, I usually plan. He's right, and I totally agree with him. But yeah, the third Friday is usually when, if you ask any big time swing trader, anybody that's putting on 100+ contracts, they'd be like, "What strike you buying?" That third Friday is where they usually place that money. If you ever look at the options flow and open interest, you'll always see on that third Friday, some strike on one of those bigger names that have flow. There's a ridiculous amount on that Friday. So there's definitely a lot of repositioning that goes on, and because of the size that's coming in and out of these names, the price can sometimes be affected. That doesn't mean every OPEX is like, oh my god, you get what's known as a pin where you get stuck between two numbers, because there's been the minority, some OPEXs where we have moved up and down, but the majority of the time on that third Friday of the month is a good time to just say, you know what, I just want to chill, right? On that Friday, I'm always telling my team on that third Friday of the month, we are done at 12 o'clock, right? We are on a day trade, and usually the week after OPEX is usually like a banger week. It supports the theory of them pulling money out of positions and reapplying it, because if you look at seasonality now, we go to 60%, 60 to 70% this week, and then next week we're at 100%, right? And if you start paying attention to seasonality, it's almost always the same. It's not always 100%, but it's a lot lower that week, and then the week after is a lot higher. So what you need to know is that big money's coming in and out of stocks, and they may pin a lot of prices in one area. So it's going to be harder for you to position yourself inside some stocks. Long story short.
Great points. Yeah, so hopefully that explains a little bit about what we were doing there. Shark, I saw your hands up, and then over to Andrew, if you want
No,
to.
Juicy covered it. Actually, the funny thing is, you can typically look back on the charts and specifically within the SPY. The third week of each month is a little bit choppy, but no, Juicy hit the nail on the head, dude. Good job, bro.
Perfect. Andrew?
Yeah, definitely agree with what everyone said here with regard to options expiration. Yeah, and sort of like my take on it is, it's almost like a reshuffling of the deck. When you have options expiration, you have a lot of these big institutions that have positions on via the options market. And what's super interesting is I think a lot of retail traders, we all have charts and we all have charting software, and everyone looks at like, okay, at what prices did people transact in these stocks? But the reality of the market now is that the options market, there's so much more volume in options than there are in stocks. And based on the trading of options, that actually moves stocks, it moves indices. It's like a tail wagging the dog phenomenon. So with options expiration, basically there's like this entire game board, and everyone is positioned on that game board on these different strikes. And then as the expiry comes up, these big institutions, these prop traders, they all start to roll their positions out in time. So they could roll their positions, out to higher strikes, out to lower strikes, and it really resets where a lot of the, support and resistance levels are. So yeah, most traders I know, like myself included, OPEX week, and it sounds like everybody on the panel, we're all kind of on the same page here. It's not really like a week where, like, at least for me personally, I try not to go like all out on like, let me initiate a bunch of swing trades, during options expiration week.
Okay. I think we've hit on that topic pretty well. Hopefully that gives some color to it. Now, going into our more technical analysis and stock picking segment that we do each week. Last week, I see picks for maybe 4 different speakers. I see Mel had TXRH, Texas Roadhouse, and Skills. And then Danny had BIGC, which I was looking at today, actually, OKTA and TTD. Great job there with TTD. Stock Talk had REDW, I think, and Andrew, or maybe it was just RDW. And then Andrew had Roblox, crazy week, EMPH, and PubM, which had that really big pop. So I don't know, Andrew's up like 30% since last week, so make sure you're paying attention when he's talking. All right, let's roll into this. So for this segment for my speakers, if you do want to speak at any point, you want to give your picks, feel free to just raise your hands. That'll be the easiest way. I am going to go over to Mel first to kick us off, perhaps with looking back at last week and then looking at this week.
Let's see here. As far as a week-to-week performance, those definitely did not perform, but those were going to be set up as longer swings opposed to your just weekly trades. This week, something I just wanted to point out, and I did post, is that you have an interesting breakout here in the software industry group. Today we broke out not only on a relative basis, but also on an absolute basis. So for those that don't know, relative is going to be comparative to the in this case, the SPX in the chart above, but also on an absolute basis, meaning its own individual sector or industry breakout. So definitely looking more towards some of those names. I've got a few that I want to go over, and I'll post some charts here shortly. ZEN, they have an investor day coming up this week, and I think that's important to note because we've seen the moves that have already occurred in Roblox today and Qualcomm today. They both had an investor day, and they tend to just add additional commentary. It doesn't always mean that it's going to be favorable. I've definitely seen both sides of that occur, but just if you are looking at trading and active in some of these names, you definitely want to make sure you're checking out the investor relations page so that you're aware of any upcoming conferences or events that may perhaps add some market moves to a ticker that you're looking at. But I do like the upside gap fill here. We're bumping right up at a swing high anchored volume VWAP, and we've got MACD curling to the upside. So that's going to be for ZEN. And I'm still definitely very much active and bullish into Octa. Let me get this chart up here. So we've got kind of two things going on here. In a shorter time frame, we have more recent and inverse head and shoulders. But within a larger technical setup, we have a 10-month triangle building, and we're kind of coming at the apex. They had two conferences today, but next week we also have the Future of Security conference. They do report December 1st, so one that's definitely high on my list because we're looking like we're getting close to a breakout here on Octa. And continuing in the software space, BILL has been seeing some unusual dark pool activity the last 2 days and did make a nice move today, but looks like there is some continuation to the upside. Price is closing above the power earnings anchored volume VWAP. And again, with 2 days of unusual dark pool activity, they do have a conference next week on 11/29, but really looking at some of these software names that are of interest. But one other side note that I wanted to bring up, just because I know we do have so many eyes on this name, is UPST. Going to show this. We had a 600,000 share dark pool print today come in, and I went back and reviewed the whole historical activity for this whole year. That is the largest single dark pool print that we've had come through in this name. So we know that there's definitely been a bigger pullback. There's been a bigger pullback. A lot of eyes here, bigger drop after ER. So just wanted to keep an eye on this. Could be an area with this larger 600,000 shares coming in at 236.60 that could create a bottom or a level of support for us to work off of going forward.
Really interesting to see that coming in on the flow there. Been checking out Black Box a little bit more. Real quick before I throw a question over at Mel, amazing to see that we are holding over 500 people in here tonight. We've been doing this now for months straight, this panel coming back every single week, transparently sharing picks, returns, ideas, market sentiments. I hope that you all have been enjoying. I'm deeply grateful to this panel for everything that they're doing. Pretty much all of them are full-time traders. That is how they support themselves, and I highly recommend checking them out during this call and make sure that you are following everybody that is up here on this panel. Incredible information. Keeping the ball back to you, actually, Mel. I did have a question. So on some of these dark pool prints and some of the option flow that's been coming in, we got some timidness, I guess, around the option expiry that's going to be happening. Are you seeing that reflected in the flow?
Well, I mean, essentially, what you're seeing. So when you're wiping out gamma is essentially what is occurring. So where you've had positioning, where you've had size come in, you're wiping off that gamma. What you want to see is that roll. You want to see them coming in, still positioning up and out. I would say the last 2 days, it's been a little bit more choppy. We're not seeing them roll those positions up and out. So it's kind of something that we're looking for. So if you have a larger position in expiration for this week, you kind of want to see them start kind of closing some of that out and say, I still like this position. I'm still bullish. Now I'm going to go a little bit further dated and I'm still going to drop size, but going out either, December, January. And so that's what we're looking for, because that creates gamma build up into those additional months that are going further out. So that's kind of what we'll tend to see coming into this week, is where you have some of these starting to close and then you start to see a roll of some of those positions. And oftentimes it's profit taking, right? So you don't know how long they've necessarily been positioned. They're looking to take some profits, and if they're still active and bullish on the position, they'll come and roll up and out. So with BlockBox, we can see where they are going bid side on those calls, but then we can see where they're coming in, to roll that position essentially. I'm also going to post a video because I think this is actually pretty interesting. I did share this on YouTube yesterday, but it was very unusual because we had dark pool activity come in yesterday after hours on all of our big guys. And it's just not something that we've seen or that we typically see. And primarily, like let's say if these names were reporting earnings upcoming, you would potentially see that. But because we don't have them reporting earnings, it was just really unusual. So we had Amazon with 382,000 shares. That size, considering that was at 35.45. Apple with 6 million shares, Google with 172,000, Microsoft with 428,000, and Tesla with 225,000. So I'm going to drop that link there, but that's just unusual to see all of our bigger names getting that kind of larger size. So really focusing on some of these in options flow, and also just technical setups to see if this is going to give us some indication, because they're so heavily weighted on not only the Qs but also the SPY, that can create a bigger directional move in not only the individual names but also our indices because of the larger holdings and weightings.
Really good stuff. Appreciate you, Mel. Going to come back potentially afterwards with more questions. Maybe if you could do any research. I was going to ask, and I'm going to keep it rolling for now, but afterwards, maybe if you could talk to the option flow that we've seen into SPACs recently. So that will be one to keep note of. Let's keep it moving. Mr. Danny Nas, would love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, what a beginning to this week. I mean, just incredible. Stock Talk can back me up on this. I called Roblox on Sunday evening as my pick of the week. As Mel was saying with the investor day, I just felt like it's been building up this pressure. It had broke 100 last week, and I had already in a position at the 105s that I closed out on Friday, rolled into the 110s, closed that out on the breakout, rolled to the 115s, closed that out, rolled to the 120s, and I closed out the entire trade at 120 because the 1/6 Fibonacci was at 119.88, and everybody in the room was like, "Whoa, you call it tops?" And I'm like, "Well, Fibonacci doesn't lie." So, yeah, it was a really, really good trade on Roblox today, and Lucid. I mean, if anybody's watching the flow, like Mel was saying, they just been hitting Lucid every single day. And even today into the close, they were hitting the 50s for this week. So I closed out the 60 lottos that I picked up this morning at 350% today. I rolled actually to the 70s this week, just using a little profit because why not? I think Lucid can continue to go. It's getting squeezed all the way to the top. So the one that I missed that I actually had a really good plan for was Qualcomm. I took what did I take? I took the 172.50 Cs yesterday. I closed it out for like 18-20% loss because I just didn't like it. Broke out and then it kind of came back down. And then today, man, look what it did. It closed at 180.80. So what? You can't win them all. I was 3 for 4 from yesterday today, but really, really good winners. The one that I've been talking about this for weeks and weeks and weeks is Matter and Matterport, MTTR. Man, what a beast! What a beast! It absolutely squeezed today up to like 29 plus. It could squeeze some more if it gets over 30. I don't know. It could go wild this week. But I really love this company. I'm up really good on commons. I closed out most of my of my calls today. I still have some Januaries that I'm holding on to. And then TTD, TTD, once we broke 100 and held 100, I was super bullish on that. I'm still super bullish on it. It's been making nice moves, another 5.5% today. And I think we got a little more room to the upside on that. So outside of that, I did, to Mel's point, with the flow that came in on Friday, I actually took a shot on holding Apple calls over the weekend. I took the 152.50 Cs and closed them out Monday morning first thing for like 30-40%. So I don't like to hold Apple because it just runs too slow for me. I like more momentum type plays. So but that was last week and going into this week. So talking about the rest of the week, today's was really all about EV. Between Lucid, Rivian, XPEV, even Tesla played around for a little bit. We back tested 1,000 and held it, closed at 1058. So EV is the name of the game, and like Stock Talk was talking about, on these choppy days and these choppy weeks. That's why I said when I started off on the spaces, I'm not even paying attention to the indices. I'm just looking at where is relative strength, and I just I was all over Lucid today. So, and that's what I'll do for the rest of the week. I'm gonna watch flow. I'm gonna watch volume. I'm gonna watch for those key breakout levels, and I'm just gonna play the game. And that's what I'll do for this week. And then next week we switch it up, and we'll go back to swinging. Doing some short swings and some medium term swings. But a couple of names to keep an eye on: PROG. I believe that's a genetics. Excuse me, a genetics company was up 48% on the close. Had some nice call flow into the 5Cs today when it was at I think just around $3. So if you caught that flow, you did really well. Mel called out Target last week. I've been keeping an eye on it. We have a flag breakout right into its previous highs at the 4236 extension on Fibonacci at 266.51. So Target looks like it could break out and continue to run. UPST, as Mel was talking about, I have a chart if you just do a quick search for. I did have a buy zone between 218 and 253, and I know that's a bit wide of a buy zone, but the wave three on this was from 100 to like 400. So I got to give it a little berth in terms of a buy zone for a pullback because it's just a wild stock. So I had called a wave three top at 400. I thought it was going to come down to 300 and bounce. We broke through that, and the problem, what happened, or why I think I was wrong, we gapped under 300, and so we gapped all the way down to like 263. We've been chopping around. We printed a new low today, but we closed higher than yesterday's close. So I still like UPST. I think it needs to consolidate a little bit, but I really do like it for a bounce play. I have been adding shares. I'm not going to play options on this until we get closer to the gap, and then I'll play a gap fill play for those options. The next one, XPEV, which I just mentioned recently, we just broke out of a recent high over 47.98, and we had kind of nice close today, nice strong candle. MACD looks really good on this as well. I do have a 1272 extension target at 51.87. Ultimately, I would take this trade to 56.83 at my 1618. Like I was saying with Lucid, we closed over that 2618 extension at 5101. I think we can take this to $64. I don't know if we'll get there this week, but if we hold $50, I think 64 is in the cards in time. We are on a measured move at $51 from that head and shoulders breakout. So I would just be cautious on the move any higher than this. Don't remember who mentioned Peloton, but I had nibbled on Peloton late last week. Around $45. We had a nice pop today, 15%. I don't love, where it's at. I think there is potentially still more downside, but this is just going to be a short-term commons play for me. I like the company. I like the product. I think they're beaten down, but I think in time they'll come back up. HD actually had a really nice day today. It's not one of those stocks that moves a lot, and it had a 5.5% day. It totally missed that play. But HD at all-time highs, looking like 400 is going to come this week. Mel talked about Octa. Don't need to go there. I feel really like it for a long swing. Roblox, it had a really nice move today. Talked about Qualcomm, Matterport, TTD, I think, will continue. That's pretty much what I got. Like I said, I'm just going to be focusing for the rest of the week on individual names, wherever the relative strength is. It may rotate every day. I don't really care because I'm just going to be, I'll have my 6 to 8 trade plans set up. Hopefully, one or two of them hits. I'll extract my money from Wall Street, and then I'll move on to the next day. And that's pretty much how I'll play it for the rest of the week.
Really good stuff. Great call there with Roblox. And I hear what you're saying with stuff like QCOM and others. Sometimes there's no fault, right? It's just the opportunity doesn't look to be there. And if it is there, cool. And if it's not there, well, cool too. Danny, I just put out the tweet that I do. I forgot to put this a little bit earlier. I know everybody in the audience probably has their own names that they would love to get analyzed. I just put out a tweet from my account, just asking people what stocks they want us to look at. Danny, would you mind checking on that when you have a chance?
Yeah, will do. And just to finish up really quickly on that Qualcomm trade, when it comes to trading and you have a plan and the plan doesn't work out and you took the trade, don't be afraid to cut that loser. You got to have the discipline to cut your losers early and let your winners run. Really, in hindsight, I should have jumped in today and taken it, but I was too wrapped up in Roblox and Lucid that I just completely missed the trade. And so there comes the discipline again in not chasing it. Had I chased it, it would have made money, but it would have totally thrown my plan off kilter, and that it would have thrown my discipline out the window. So I missed the trade, but it was still a great trade. But yeah, I'll look at those charts in a minute.
Perfect. I just went ahead and pinned that up top. If you're the audience and you have a stock you want us to get to, please go ahead and drop it under there in the comments. That would be perfect. And make sure you're following Danny, who does a ton of amazing charting. We'll put it out there, criminally underrated with everything he does. Okay, Andrew, I saw your hand next.
Yeah, so last week my picks had Roblox, Enphase, Pubmatic. Roblox, talked about this on our last call. This is definitely a company, I've been long this one since about like $70. I got like super excited about the company, invested for the long term. And this is still one that I just have no intention of selling it, anytime soon. I really think this is essentially another company like how YouTube is for videos, Roblox is, for video games. Same thing like Twitter is for content, Roblox is for video games. So yeah, this one, I certainly wouldn't buy it up here at these levels, but it's a name I continue to like, and I'm just going to continue to hold on to it. On last week's call, I was basically saying, hey, I got short a couple things. I'm looking for a market dip. We did end up getting a market dip. And what was awesome is when you come in prepared for a dip or you're a little bit lighter, then you can go ahead and take advantage of it. For tonight's call, I'm in the same exact boat. For all of the the signals that I mentioned earlier, like the dollar breaking out, treasuries breaking down. Tomorrow, I'm definitely coming into the session with a seller's mindset. I hope we get a nice gap higher. I would love to sell into it. One name I'm probably going to sell is DigitalOcean. That one I've had since about like $47. Ophir Gottlieb, shout out to him. He's the one that put it on my radar. He has an amazing research product. I'm always reading all of his picks. But yeah, DigitalOcean really blasted off today. And a lot of times what's interesting is you'll see high volume at the beginning of a move. And then a lot of times you'll see very high volume when the move is getting extended. And today, out of nowhere, DigitalOcean was up 9.45% up to $130. And it moved on really nice relative volume. So that one, I'll probably just take that one off. That one's, over 100% gain. That's been like one of my bellwether stocks throughout 2021. One stock that I am looking at, though, is Playboy. Playboy reported earnings. They had a really nice earnings report. This is one of my favorite setups, and it is when a stock reports really nice earnings, no one on Wall Street is expecting it, and you get a nice gap higher and some really good follow through throughout the session. So Playboy, definitely at the top of my list. It's probably the only stock heading into tomorrow's session that I would be willing to maybe put on like a starter position. But for the most part, what I'm going to be watching tomorrow is I want to see, when VIX expiration happens in the early afternoon, I want to look at volatility. and see if volatility starts moving to the upside. So I'll be watching the VIX primarily. I'm definitely going to be watching the 10-year Treasury yields. I want to see if those continue to move and really what that does. And then the dollar index. So watching the dollar, Treasuries, volatility, and then potentially looking at adding some commons in Playboy.
Interesting there with Playboy. That's one that I've heard a few times now getting thrown out there. Why are you looking at Playboy?
So Playboy, this was a really loved stock. A couple months ago, it had a crazy run to the upside, and then it really fell out of favor. And this stock had a pretty epic crash over the course of a bunch of months. Pretty sure this one washed out almost all the bulls in a very slow, painful death. And now the stock has a 21.22% short interest. And it looks like a lot of those shorts were forced to cover today. But this is kind of like when a trend first starts, oftentimes it begins with a great earnings report. And so that's like if you're looking to become like a trend trader or really just looking to build a trading business, that's a really good play to have in your arsenal. Like just look for the stocks that reported great earnings, and they're called power earnings gap setups. So this one definitely forming a textbook peg setup, and the relative volume this one moved on today was 7.55. So it's really good relative volume. And the other reason behind the power earnings gap, why it works, is because say if these companies, no one is bullish on Playboy, it's like, oh, that stock is horrible. Everyone's got to get rid of that, whatever. And then the company reports really good earnings. Suddenly everyone's like, oh, shoot, now we have to add to Playboy. And these institutions, it's very tough for a big institution to get their full position on in a single day. So you'll notice Roblox had the same exact setup. It reported awesome earnings, and it was up like 30% in a day. And for most people, they would think like, oh, the stock's up 30%. I can't buy it now. But a lot of times that's really just the beginning of some institutions picking up the stock.
Got it. Got it. Last question, and then I will roll to Juicy is, in our last meeting, I think you mentioned having some reservations around SPY. Believe you had ridden up the week beforehand. You were down on it the following week. Where's your thoughts on the indices right now?
Yeah, so for last week, I came in with some SPY puts, some Qs puts, and we ended up getting like a little mini correction over the next few days. And what was good is like I could tell a lot of people, online, they were like pulling their hair out over the correction because for some of the really high momentum names, it was, pretty big drawdowns over a 2-day period. I like, if I'm coming in light and then I see a little market correction, then you can just be in such a more aggressive mindset. For today, I'm coming in with that same posture. I hope the market doesn't, spill over the next couple of days. But if I don't see Bitcoin turning around tomorrow, that's probably another thing to add to the watch list. If I don't see Bitcoin turn around and I don't see treasuries turn around, I don't see the VIX turn around, I added some Qs puts into the close today, and I'll likely add to, more index puts because it's just not a good configuration when you have yields breaking out. You got the dollar breaking out, the move index going higher. Those are all just things that I don't like to see. And for everybody in the audience, if you're like a price action trader, you trade off market generated information. I'm just looking at all of these different markets every single day for my daily routine and my daily process. And so when you're looking at these every day and you just start to see things where it's like, wow, the dollar hasn't done this for over a year. And it's like, oh, treasuries are about to break out to, treasury yields on the verge of breaking out to new highs, things like that. When I see a bunch of things start to change, that's always when I go, okay, let me pump the brakes a little bit. So I definitely want to lighten up if I get an opportunity tomorrow. And it doesn't mean go nuclear short on the market, but if I just lighten up a little bit, maybe add, little put options, whatever. If the market keeps going up, it's like, all right, whatever, market keeps going up. But then if the market has a little spill, then you're not really oh my gosh, panicking and, going crazy. So that's kind of how I approach it.
Perfect. Appreciate the explanation there, Andrew. Always good stuff, and I appreciate you tracking everybody's picks so that we can put those out later. Juicy, rolling over to you.
Hey, again, and I'm gonna have to hop off after this. I do run a live stream for my team every night to prepare for the next day. But in preparation, there are a couple names I do somewhat like. But one thing I want to say is a lot of trading's mindset, and the way my mindset works is a big advantage of that I have is that I really have no desire to trade. Like every day I walk into the market, I was like, this market has to beg me to push this button, right? Like it has to be like it was so good that I couldn't help myself. I had to buy, right? And I don't have that feeling right now. So for me, I'm kind of playing defense because I've done very well the last like 5 weeks, 6 weeks have been like phenomenal, right? So I kind of want to say I don't really want to open too much more exposure, okay? Now, one play I was looking at was Microsoft ticker MSFT. That had an inside week. It did break and it did shake me out today. I got in. I was up about 20%. I scaled out. I didn't roll. I moved my stop to break even. I saw some chop in the market. I said, you know what? If it falls over, I'll just break even and look to get back in. So I did get stopped out, pretty much break even, and I took a little bit of my scale. So we can get back above 340. I'm looking for Microsoft to move to the 347 area. Now, the rest of it is pretty much, I'll give you guys a little tip. When the market goes sideways, something I like to focus on are those inside bars, right? Because those inside bars, when they break, especially on the lower time frames, like on a daily chart, they shoot to the previous candle. It just happens. It's very easy. You can make a lot of money really quick in the early parts of the market. You're done. You're wrapped up about 10:30. You're done for the day. So right now, ticker CRWD is inside, right? You got a nice giant bar yesterday. Now you have the inside bar today. So when you play these, the cool thing about this is you really allow the market to come to you because you come with two different levels. You have an upside plan and a downside plan. So if you break the 262.88, which is high day from technically today, you have room to the 272.45. So as soon as you hit that, break that level, you go ahead and buy whatever calls you guys pick. Some people picked out the money. So I'm usually always at the money. And you have a short side plan to these type of things. So short side is going to be 253.88 for a move down to 247.55. Next one is going to be Blink. Looking for some form of sympathy with all this money going into EVs. Blink also went inside. So I'm looking to take that long above 45.44 for a move to 47.40. It did have some flow, a lot of flow going to it yesterday. Not today, but yesterday with some big buy orders going in there. And I'll take that short below 41.37 for a move back down to 40.01. And I'll give you one last one, and it's going to be MasterCard. I put out a post earlier talking about how underrated Visa is as a trader. Like Visa and MasterCard, they move together. They are amazing day traders, right? You guys should definitely add these tickers to your arsenal because they trade amazingly. You also got inside day here. I prefer the short side if it breaks to the short side because we kind of straight up. So long trigger is going to be 371. 11 for a move to 375, and your short trigger is going to be 362.05 for a move back down to 355.91. So I know I threw a lot of numbers out there. After this live stream with my team, I'm going to throw all these out in trade idea posts. So be sure to follow me, follow everybody on this panel. And again, I thank you, Will, for having this and putting this together. But I'm going to go ahead and step out and run this live stream. If you're on my team, I'm see you in about 10 minutes.
Good luck to you, Juicy. Make sure you're following Juicy so that you see those when he puts them out. I've been tuning into his Discord calls in the morning. Really good stuff, really fun. And they have like really, really fun banter on them at the same time. And it's like several guys calling out their plays, calling out targets. I love it. I had a great time. Thanks, Juicy.
Anytime, fam. Be easy. Have a good one,
All
everybody.
right. Take care. All right, let's keep it rolling. Going to the big dog, Stock Talk Weekly. I know that you did your stock picks for the week space in the beginning of the week. I tuned in like the last minute, unfortunately. I had just gotten free. But here's another opportunity for us to hear from you. I'd love to hear what is on the radar for the rest of this week, and then just any other thoughts.
Yeah, man. So, I'm in a couple big swings here. I think last time we were doing this show, I talked a little bit about DMYQ. We got in there at 10:05. It's trading 1087 now, so 8% higher. But this is another Nicolo Demasi merger. So he did RSI, Jenny, which is Genius Sports, RSI is Rush Street Interactive, and he also did IonQ. IonQ has been obviously absolutely ripping lately. It had a 35% day today, and it's gone from 7 to 26 in very short order. So that one has been, doing very well for us, and we were in RSI and Jenny as well. So DMYQ is his next merger. It's with a company called Planet. um, for those who aren't familiar with Planet, they are a satellite imagery provider that is very differentiated from competitors. Sorry, give me a second. My dog is literally. Give me a second. But yeah, so Planet is very differentiated from competitors, and Nicola DeMasi is giving them a lot of credence as a SPAC sponsor. But this is a company in the satellite and imagery space that I have not seen with these kind of numbers in a while. They're posting 90% recurring revenues. 73% of their total annual contract value is multi-year contracts ranging from 3 to 10 years. Um, they're projecting a 44% CAGR over the next 5 years. They have 600 plus individual customers, basically in every vertical that you can imagine: agriculture, defense, energy, logistics, financial services. They have people in every single sector, and blue chip customers as well. And they're also the leading satellite provider in terms of capturing data daily. They have over 200 satellites that are their own satellites that are capturing 25 terabytes of data daily. So they're the only imaging provider in the world globally that is capturing that level of data and doing it on a daily basis. So they're really differentiated. They have a moat. They function as an SaaS company, so software as a service company. And I think they're going to lean into this space and satellite sector and get some multiple generosity there as well. So this is a stock that can trade a lot higher from where he inked this deal. Again, the risks for us adding at 10.05 was zero. That risk has gone up now to about 8% with it trading at 10.80, but I think it's still a really great opportunity. So I'm continuing to load that one. That hasn't really, blown up or exploded yet, but it's one that I think will, considering his credence and considering how good of a target it is. The other name that I've been really big on this week, coming into this week was TRT. We started talking about it when it was 490. As soon as it went into the fives, that name has traded now plus 80% in the last two sessions, which is, an incredible move. But the crazy thing is our thesis is still intact there. So, I've trimmed into strength as I always do. Anytime I see a plus 30% day, I'm going to trim into strength. But, I have my core position and I'm holding my core position for a longer swing on this. I think it was Andrew earlier who mentioned, ER catalysts spawned runs that happen, right? Where you have a good ER on a company that, hasn't had a lot of volume in the near term, and then the company explodes and goes on this path. That's exactly what we saw with another name, AEHR, which I know a lot of people are familiar with. So that name is another name in the semiconductor burn-in and testing category. So TRT is in this same category, semiconductor burn-in and testing. AEHR kind of had multiple shock when people saw them post a great ER. That was back in July when they posted that. And the stock ran right after that ER. The stock ran in a couple sessions from 250 up to 8, and then fizzled out and kind of consolidated in that 5 to 6 range. And then starting in September, it went on a monster run from 250 in July now all the way up to 25. So seeing that move, I don't want to be a buyer of AEHR to 650 million market cap. But after this ER that TRT posted on Monday, they posted 23 cents in net income on a company that's trading at 0.7x sales in the exact same sector as AEHR, who is trading at 40x sales. So even if you give AEHR this, small cap sector leader crown and say, hey, it should be trading at a higher multiple than the other semiconductor burn-in and testing companies, TRT's market cap is 33 million, even after this 80% two-session run. So before this run we've seen in the last 2 days, it was trading at a 19 million market cap. It was screaming to be bought, which is why we had the idea going into this week. Obviously, didn't expect the random ER 11:30 a.m. Monday, which is why I didn't get to put out my DD on it before that ER dropped. But we got the DD out while it was still trading under 6, ripped to the 7s yesterday, ripped to 9 today. This is a stock that I think could reasonably trade north of $20. It's still trading under 9. At a $24 share price, this stock would trade at $96 million market cap. Its direct peer AEHR is trading at a $650 million market cap on 40x sales. So this is a name I think has a ton of room. I'm hesitant to swing trade in these environments, but I'm swinging this heavy with a lot of size. These are to me like those kind of life-changing multi-baggers where you get it on a company when it's a 20 million market cap, and in a few months that company's trading at 100 or 150 million market cap. So I really really like the story here. I think it fits the narrative. It fits the primary runner in AEHR. It fits a nice sector theme that we have, which is semiconductors, which have been ripping this year. And then outside of that, it's also a really technically sound play. It just broke the 5-year high today. And rather than being rejected and settling down, 10, 20 points lower, the stock got a quick consolidation, about 5 minutes, and then just ripped even higher to the $9 range. This is a stock with a 2 million float. We've traded 20 million shares on a 2 million float in 2 days. That to me screams that the part of the free float has been occupied by holders. You're actively reducing the free float on the stock. There's a fundamental story behind it. There's momentum behind it. We did 600x the average 3-month volume, 600x yesterday. The stock did 12 million volume yesterday on a 20K average 3-month volume. So to me, these trends are just screaming upside. I'm sure it'll correct on the way because of how low of a float it is. It's going to be a whipsaw. But again, this to me, we were banging the table yesterday. And, thankfully, a lot of people, some of my friends got in yesterday who, now they're up another 30%. But, it's scary to get in sometimes on these momentum runners. But when the fundamental thesis is this good, and it has technically, the ability to move. Something I tweeted earlier today was when you're looking for a swing trade that can be a multi-bagger, you want to ask yourselves 2 things. Number 1, can it move technically? And then number 2, should it move fundamentally? And if the answer to both of those questions is yes, then to me it's a good swing trade. And so staying along that name. So what have I touched on? DMYQ, TRT. BidF is another name we're long on. I bought the dip under 8 today this morning. I already had some. We've been building a position in the 4s, 5s, and 6s. I took a bit of a average up approach today. They had a blowout earnings report yesterday. I kind of talked about Bitcoin mining stocks a little bit on our spaces earlier, but just to touch on that again, I think the market has not really priced in the potential growth for these companies and the fact that they're literally money printing machines. BidF's numbers yesterday, despite a slight revenue miss, the way they've transformed their business model was stunning. Their revenues were at 45 million, which is nearly what Mara did. A company that's worth 4x more. Those revenues are up 560% year over year, 25% quarter over quarter. Their net income was 23.7 million versus a net loss of 4.8 million last year. Their gross mining margins in the same quarter last year were 26%. Now they're 82%. Their EBITDA margin last year was negative 4%. This year, plus 93%. Their cost of Bitcoin last quarter, not even last year, their cost per Bitcoin last quarter was 9K. Now that's down to 6.9K. That's a 23% reduction in cost to mine in 1 quarter. And they're projecting, a 4x increase in capacity by the end of next year. So to me, these plays, with a 93% EBITDA, these plays are becoming money printers. These stocks are becoming money printers, and the market doesn't see it yet. And I don't even think enough crypto fanatics who want exposure see it yet. These stocks have outperformed every underlying asset in crypto that they're mining by tenfold or more. Mara's up 3,000% in 1 year, and Bitcoin's up 300% in 1 year. So, the percentage the way these are leveraged exposures has become, to me, very obvious. The market broadly hasn't noticed it yet, because if they had, these names would be seeing 5 to 10x more volume than they're seeing already. And the space is becoming crowded. So eventually the market will have to notice, because there'll be coverage on more and more of these names. So yeah, BidF, TRT, DMYQ, RDW, I'm still waiting for those earnings. I haven't added more. I haven't sold. I'm waiting for those earnings to kind of confirm my thesis on that. The sell-off we've had post, earnings delay was expected. I think it's a little overreactionary, but we'll see. My thesis on that will be updated once we see that ER report and I have time to read it. And then obviously, in terms of long-term plays, I've been long Lucid and IonQ, which have been absolutely ripping this week. And I think, they potentially have more upside as well. So Lucid and IonQ still long on those. Really good cost basis, so I'm not worried about the volatility up here.
Those are plays that have definitely been paying as IonQ has continued to rip. I'm also inside of DMYQ, SEAH, and great calls there with the Sunday ones. And I love what you were talking about. We discussed this yesterday. We did a how to conduct fundamental analysis space. And one of the things we talked about was that perfect marriage of the fundamentals and the technicals, with the fundamentals for, like you said, should this company be moving, and the technicals, I think it's like more the could, right? Is this the opportunity now, the timing? I
Yeah,
hope I
can
got
it move technically, and should it move fundamentally?
There you go. There you go. Exactly. And that's a really great crossover between those two. So yeah, excited to, everyone should mark it off on your calendars. You do that 7 p.m. EST on Sundays or 8?
Yeah, we do it either 6 or 7 p.m. EST, depends on what's happening for me on Sunday. But yeah, we do those every Sunday. But Danny's on there pretty much every week. Stock market news is on there. We would love to have you on the next one, Gav, if you can make it.
100%. I'm going to do my best to make this one. I've had commitments the last couple Sundays. But yeah, that's something that I'm definitely looking forward to, and some great picks there from Stock Talk Weekly. Okay. Gonna get the rest of our speakers involved real quick, and then we'll circle back on a couple of topics. Vegas, would love to hear from you. I know you always have a slew of picks, so I'm excited to hear them.
Great, and thank you everyone for sticking around. I know it's a lot of great picks being shared tonight. And so I do want to mention one called Prog. I know we've heard of PROG many times. This stock was under $1 not that long ago. You could see it's over the $5 mark. And so one of the things I want to mention, this chart is a beautiful chart. If you look at obviously the weekly chart, this is great, a great swing trade. It's had a pocket pivot, the volume surge. I'm all about the volume. And we can see that it's expanding. Look for an expansion breakout on this stock. And one of the things that's very appealing, for those of you that not familiar with this company, they are obviously headquartered in California, and they're very involved in the gastrointestinal health and oral biotherapeutics. And one of the things that they have going on, they actually received 4 patents lately, and so all with regards to ingestible devices for the GI tract, anything to do with gastrointestinal. So that's a really big catalyst that they're getting these patents. And the other thing too is that they hired a new CEO who joined them recently on November the 9th. His name is Adi Mohanty, and he's obviously part of the board of directors. He has a lot of experience, especially in the biotech, as a biotech business leader. And prior to that, he was a CEO of Biotime, and he has been very involved in candidates from the lab into mid and late stage clinical trials. So this actual stock has a lot going for it. If you guys remember, this was back at an IPO price at $15. So you can imagine how this has pulled back significantly from that price. And so we know that over time, as the company tries to get back on track and expand their patent portfolio, I believe that the company's valuation is going to go up. So I like to look at, have a vision of, where's the growth of this company going, look at a quality chart, but also looking at the fundamentals of the company too. And we know that, this new CEO has an excellent track record to build biotech businesses. And so I think this will be good exposure from from the company, I think that we will see that the stock in time, I mean, it has actually progressed quite a lot in the last month. We can see the stocks, moving slowly but on the way up. And I think this is a great one also for option traders. I mean, definitely long on commons for sure for a swing trade. Could probably see this heading towards over 625. But from an options perspective, I would say you should consider probably like a January contracts because those are actually pretty cheap. The $5, which would take you into the in the money calls, I mean, those are pretty cheap. They're like $1.46, which is very reasonable because you have a lot of time on your hands, time on your side for that also. And then February calls are like only $1.75. So I do like it because it is obviously in the penny stock field, but I do like what they have going on, especially, a lot of people have, gastrointestinal problems. So I think that this will be very interesting to see this company turn around. I think it should be rebounding. And I think also we will see a lot of short squeeze coming out of here. So I think the shorts have had some fun with this, and I think they're going to get a future squeeze. So definitely PROG is one to take a starter on or consider an option swing trade. But the chart is actually beautiful, so that's one really good pick. And another one that I'm really liking is Chevron. You guys know I love to follow the dark pool like Mel, and we know that we like to follow the money, like where are the institutions going. And so we did see a lot of money flow on Chevron last week. And so we do have confirmation based on the prints of the actual stock that those transactions, that volume of millions of dollars coming through on Chevron, that those were actual buys. And so you can see that Chevron has 52-week highs, and definitely liking Chevron for a swing trade. And so you could look to consider 120 calls for January. Those are going pretty good too. The pretty good prices on Chevron. It has a lot of room here. It looks like it's around 117.34. So looking to go towards 120 in due course. The January calls closed around $2.80, but definitely don't want to take anything for November. So it'd have to go into December. And the 120s for December are around $1.36. So definitely could consider 120 calls for Chevron. And I like when we have the confirmation of the money flow and a very nice clean chart as well on Chevron. One of the other ones too, just to mention, is eBay. I mean, I haven't really used eBay in quite a long time, but we know, people are still shopping online and looking for things online. And so eBay is one of those stocks that's had a lot of dark pool prints all of last week. I saw 2.5 million shares come through on eBay, and also it is over that $75 level. And so we are looking for that continuation on eBay, and it could head towards $80 on eBay. So it is definitely a really nice swing trade to consider, but definitely considering nothing for November. Definitely considering the $75 calls for December, or even going to the $80 calls. I mean, the $80 calls, honestly, they're pretty cheap. They're like only 99 cents for one contract. So I think that's a pretty good risk reward, with a stop loss around $72.50. And the other one that I'm looking at, just to mention, is Starbucks. We know Starbucks, obviously, every time, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I've gone to the drive-through, it's I don't even know like what time of day I'm going. It's so busy. Like I could be going like 2 in the afternoon, like weird times, like 4:15. It doesn't matter what time I go. There's at least 10, 15 cars ahead of me all the time. So Starbucks is making a killing. They're making money, and it's sometimes their holiday drinks are all out now, and they have their app is pretty slick. People are collecting their stars, but we did see a lot of dark pool 2 last week on November 8th, November 10th, November 12th. We saw huge prints come in, actually a really big one for 650,000 shares of Starbucks on November 10, and then on November 12th, another 450,900. So these are like big money. Like we're talking around $177 million coming into Starbucks. So somebody really likes their lattes. So definitely will be watching Starbucks. I haven't taken this trade. I'm still waiting for confirmation. I'm looking to see, Starbucks break above 117. And if it does break 117, we could have a really nice move maybe towards mid 120s, like 123, maybe 125. But let's, keep it on your watch list because this can go at any time. Starbucks has been, a couple weeks ago, he traded it on a Friday and it had a nice move, a couple dollars, $2, $3 in one day. And now to see it at this price point, it looks like it's gearing up. I'm just waiting for now this confirmation. And I like that it's holding above the 110, but I still want to see this break of 117 because if you look at the weekly chart, we still have some resistance at the 20-day and at the 200-day. So I still need to see confirmation, but it is definitely one to watch because I actually think it's going to actually trigger, and maybe not this week, but I wouldn't be surprised when we talk next week, potentially Starbucks could trigger for a swing trade. So you could have that one on your watch list. And then the last one that I want to mention is we know Nvidia has earnings this week. And so one of the things to mention about, Nvidia, liking this to go over, let me just see the levels I have here on Nvidia. I think it's over 310, I think is what I was looking for. Yeah, I was looking for it to go over 310, but one of the things, and I probably won't really trade this till the earnings are out of the way, but one of the things that keeps making Nvidia obviously an excellent stock. We know the CEO and founder, Jensen Huang. I mean, he's a visionary in the tech space. And we know that, there's a lot of talk. We know Facebook changed their name now to Meta. The ticker will reflect that December 1st. But one of the things with Nvidia is that they are beyond and very advanced where a lot of companies are doing that are in the space. I mean, we know that the CEO, he's looking to go above and beyond metaverse. He's actually calling it the Omniverse. And with the Omniverse, one of the things he did say is that they do have the technology to create the new 3D worlds or model the physical world. And the Omniverse could really best be described as a platform for virtual world simulation and collaboration. So I think that they're going to look to apply the technology to artificial intelligence and a lot more things. So I think Omniverse is going to become really big. We keep hearing about metaverse, but we're going to hear a lot more about Omniverse. And the thing is, NVIDIA has developed 2 replicators, and one is for their general robotics, which is known as the Omniverse Replicator for Isaac Sim. And then the other one is the autonomous vehicle called the Omniverse Replicator for Drive Sim. So these are things to be watching and listening for on probably the earnings call. And I think that we know that the CEO has a very strong vision for transformative technology. And I think that NVIDIA is probably going to have really good earnings. Really interested to hear about the guidance. So definitely one to watch, but really liking this Omniverse because this is going to be huge. I think we're going to hear about avatars and digital twins and things like that. So it's just going to be epic. So more to come in NVIDIA. So I'm really excited about the earnings and the vision of what he's got lined up. So one to watch. I'm definitely not going to trade it into earnings, but unless there's, some people like to do lottos, but I'm really excited to trade this probably after the earnings and see how that one goes. But definitely keep a watch for this new word, Omniverse. This could be big.
Really interesting. And, by my understandings of it, the difference between the omniverse and the metaverse is that the omniverse, per Jensen Wang's own words, was a virtual environment that works as a metaverse for engineers. Essentially, is this a more playground style version of the metaverse where it can be engineered and modified, and that's what the omniverse is?
Well, I'm not as familiar with the Omniverse. I mean, I got to tell you, all these new terminologies, Omniverse, metaverse. I was like, what is all this? I mean, this is all, new to me with all these NFTs. So I'm just getting more versed in it myself. But I think with the Omniverse, Nvidia's Omniverse, they did show, I think, at their virtual world simulation, they did show how the 3D workflow and operates, and he did show a demonstration of their Omniverse avatar. So he did show that. And showing how they have 5G Edge and the robots, self-driving cars, and all these avatars. So he's calling it the digital twin, and he called it an E2 or Earth 2 to simulate and predict also climate change. So I'm still not as well versed in Omniverse myself. I'm just, still learning about it myself. But the fact that, this is something he is definitely talking about. I mean, he is definitely has his company in comparison to even probably Facebook. He's probably has Nvidia at a totally different level in terms of his vision of where he plans to take the business. So I think it's definitely one to watch, because I think with this Omniverse, technology, I think he's going to take it to a huge new animation and graphics level where there'll be a lot of real-time conversational AI robots and avatars as well. So I think this will be something that we're probably going to learn more about and hear more about, and probably hear other companies talk about Omniverse and having that in their technology. But definitely, he is one that's doing it. I think I heard that there was an Omniverse Enterprise that was being sold for like over $9,000. So very interesting technology that's out there. So that's all I can't tell you about that, because I'm still learning it
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, that is pretty fascinating. I'm also taking a look at, let's see, Starbucks seasonality. Says 100% for today from what I'm seeing. Oh, I have it on week of the year. I guess you could do day of the year, week of the year, day of the week, all that type of stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, going into the holiday season, it does seem like a really apt time. And I saw those big dark pool prints as well, I think that you mentioned in there. So yeah, pretty cool to see all that action. And I just cannot believe that PROG ended up running 46% today. That was pretty nuts. That was one which we were discussing last week. Did they report earnings recently?
I'll double check that in just a second, but I do want to mention too, Prague had so much options flow as well. I mean, they were like hammering it down today. The flow was super aggressive. I mean, they're attacking the 750 strike. And the ones that they're getting are the 750 calls for December 17. So they're, definitely anticipating a move to the upside. I mean, the chart is just absolutely beautiful. I don't think they had recent earnings from what I could see here. I'll actually have to go to the corporate website and just double check that. But I think with the fact that they have all these patents that they got, 4 new patents, and obviously they finally got a new CEO. I mean, the CFO has been kind of doing the double job right now. But I think the hiring of Adi Mohanty is going to be a great addition to the leadership team at Prague. And I think, we also have what's an interesting thing to mention. I do want to mention this very important feature, because not everyone really looks at these things, but the institutional ownership on PROG, and people may not always think this, look at this all the time. I know the panelists here always do, but if you're listening, I mean, obviously institutional ownership is a really important thing to look at, and in penny stocks in particular, especially with these biotechs. And you can see here the institutions own 65% of this float, so that is a lot for a stock at this price. We know that obviously it IPO'd at 15, so definitely there was an interest there at the investor level too. But the fact that they own so much. Now they did participate in a virtual conference with Piper Sandler, and it looks like they did have actually the earnings report last week on November the 10th. And they did talk about the 4 patents, the ones that I just mentioned right now. And they did also talk about their cost cutting mechanisms, what they're doing, and that they, obviously engaging They had raised capital around $40 million from an offering back in August, and that 19.6 of it went towards some other expenses here. But they did mention they have a commercial partnership, and starting with Precluda, and so they have that, and that's pretty much it. But I think the company has a lot going on for it, and the chart looks great. I think the earnings call was pretty good. I think they have a great new leader coming on board, and the toots are still here, so no one's really been dumping these shares. So, I mean, the fact is it's 1/3 off, and the only thing it can do is go up. I mean, this thing's really been beaten down. If you really look at the stock, it was so like super cheap. Like I think it was like 63 cents, and to know that it was $15 is just nuts. So let's see if this company can turn around and see what they can do over the next month or two. I wonder what it's going to do. I'll be keeping a watch on this, and I'll be definitely taking a position. But definitely want to see this get back. If this can get over 10, this will be lit up, and those $10 traders will definitely be coming in here for sure. So I think it's like a
Absolutely.
bargain stock.
I think, Mel, you have a comment on that?
Vegas, I was just going to tell you what's interesting about that.
Yeah.
3 seconds after the market opened. So, guys, I want you guys to think about that. Sweeper activity. So, just a quick, for those that are newer to options flow, blocks are pre-negotiated and traded on one exchange. So that means that they only want to trade at this price. They want this certain fill. It doesn't necessarily show you the aggression that sweeper activity will. And what sweeping activity means is that they put in an order and they're sweeping across multiple exchanges to get filled. It shows more intent and aggression to get into a trade. So that order may be broken up into several smaller orders, each filled at a certain exchange. 3 seconds after the market opened, and this is something that we look at and we always mention on voices, what names, when the gates open, do they want to be most active in? And 3 seconds after they opened, they started hitting Prague for this week, 350s paying 47 cents. They continued to hit that all through the day, and you can tell that one definitely made a move. Of course, they were adding some different contracts along with that, but very active and a great call out on that one. Vegas, just kind of wanted to highlight how interesting that is to see, not even a full minute of market open, and you just had interest flooding into this name. So great call out.
Love it. Is Vegas speaking? I
Yeah,
couldn't tell.
sorry. Yeah, I was just
Okay.
gonna say thank you so much, Mel, for making those comments, because it's hard to catch all that right at the open. So thank you very much for sharing that and for commenting on that flow, those sweepers coming in. So this interests me because I love the price point. I love the fact that it's I'm viewing this really as obviously an opportunity, and the fact that obviously as things evolve with this company with their patents, I think that the valuation of this company will definitely, put it back on track. So yes, thank you so much, and thank you so much, Gav, for a great session tonight. Really appreciate being able to speak to everyone.
Yeah, of course. It's a pleasure. And, it's been amazing that we have over 600 people that are able to benefit from this information. Make sure that you are checking out Vegas and Mel and everything that they're doing. Okay, a couple of things I want to get to real quick, a couple more speakers, and then we'll move into the wrap up after that. But it looks like we're running strong. Also, found this amazingly hilarious. So I definitely like to take a look through our audience while we're checking them out. And I see we were blessed by, I like to find fun usernames. That's like my favorite thing is people that come in with fun usernames for pictures. So we have @adult in here, the username adult. And the best thing is their profile picture is the Dogecoin with laser eyes. And I think it's just very fitting for the @adult. I just love the stuff that we have going on here. So it's always fun to see. All right. With that being said, I'm going to roll over to my co-host, Stock Market News.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. I'll keep moving. I'll be quick with it. I just know that we talked on it a little bit earlier, so we don't got to go too in depth with it. But the Google Calendar, it's something that we've worked on. I think it's one of the most powerful tools that we've created for these spaces. I would love to get like a 20-30 seconds on it, God, if we could.
Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't want to deprive anybody because I'm sure there's people that are in this audience that haven't heard about it yet. We did talk about it on the earlier space. Essentially, what myself and Stock Market News have been working on is a free public Google Calendar for anybody who wants to make sure that they can catch as many spaces as possible without having to always be on their phone, checking Twitter, checking this, checking that. All you have to do is just DM me right now. Go ahead and just DM me your email and ask me on the calendar. That is it. It's free. We don't charge. It's a toggle on and off, and you'll be able to see all the spaces for the week. For example, we did 2 spaces already today where there was a technical analysis one, there was a crypto one. Tomorrow, I have live trading at the open, live option trading. Then I have, I think, 12 p.m. with Brian Shannon, the creator of Anchored VWAP and Pattern Profits. At 3 p.m., Stock Market News is going to be coasting with the street. And then at 5 p.m., I've got like an earnings space. So you can see there's a ton going on. It's hard to find tweets. So just slide to the DMs right now. If you're not already on it, there's almost 850 people on this thing, maybe even more, closer to 900. We'd love to break 1,000 people on it this week. Again, we're never going to charge you. You can unsubscribe at any time if you would like. You don't even have to send us an email or anything. So if you're not already on it, just DM us and we'll put you right on the calendar. All right, Evan, how was that?
Dude, that was perfect. Only thing that I would add or change in there is you can DM him or me. I know Gov's had so many DMs. There's been so much interest in this tool just because it's been so powerful. And, like we were saying, I really do think this is the best thing we've created for Twitter Spaces and know when they are. But yeah, you can DM me as well. We're trying to help Gov
Uh,
expedite the process as well. Just make sure when you do send it over, include your emails in it as well so we can get you on as quick as possible.
Perfect. And what stocks are you looking at this week, Ben?
So I did throw in 2 comments on the thing on your tweet. Right now I've been playing it a lot, and it seems maybe like the obvious play, and that maybe isn't the best play or a best thing to do. But I am thinking of possibly a short Nvidia. I'm not actually going to do it. It's a stock that is super long for the long term, and I love Jensen Huang. I think he's one of the best CEOs out there. But just we've run so much around these earnings, it seems like it's kind of asking to pull back. But we'll see on that. And then also, I feel like Square has not really been talked about as much recently. It's a FinTwit favorite. I would love to maybe get some of our amazing traders up here their thoughts on Square, where it's at now.
Danny, I saw that you were charting that, right?
Which name was that?
Square, SQ?
I don't think I haven't really been watching Square and PayPal. They're a bit in a downtrend right now, so they haven't been on my radar.
No worries. I know that Juicy's a big Square guy. Anyone else
Yeah.
want to
Yeah,
answer?
I'm taking a look at Square right now. So, yeah, Square is not really in the best trend. I would say right now it's in a sideways trend, though, and you can make money when stocks are trading sideways. A lot of times, sideways stocks are great for day traders, people in that really short term time frame. But I will say the Square chart actually looks pretty good here. So, what I like about it is, again, we've been range bound. And on November 10th, we started carving out a low around this 225 price level. So what I like about it here is, we're starting to see some bids come into Square. It was up 2.34% today. So for today's session, it was a nice outperformer. If you were interested in Square and you wanted to get a position on, you could take a position right here and you could set your stop out point below the low of 225 that we made on November 10th. So from a risk reward standpoint, it's definitely not the worst trade location to get into Square here. So yeah, if you're into Square, I think this is as good a time as any to just take a shot at it. It's definitely not one that I'm watching for tomorrow, but yeah, I think it's it doesn't look too bad here.
Good stuff. And then I know the other one was Nvidia, right, Evan?
Yeah, but maybe that one thinking a little bit more on the downside.
Yeah, Nvidia, this one also it's so fascinating, man. Like one of the things I thought when I first saw that Nvidia was reporting this week was I was like, how the heck is this company going to surprise to the upside? Because yeah, it's an amazing company. It's one of the world's best. Like we all know that. The stock has more than doubled this year. So this has been an amazing time. Like if you're an Nvidia long holder, you have just been on an amazing ride. It doesn't really seem like that ride's going to end anytime soon. But yeah, pretty much every quarter Nvidia's had a really nice move to the upside. I would be pretty surprised if we just blasted off again and we just hit 350 after this earnings report. I almost think, heading into this earnings report, this might be a nice win for the premium selling gang.
Interesting. Okay, that's listen. Maybe that's a way to go after it. Evan, is perhaps sell some calls into it.
I was thinking of doing that. I would have done that in my actual portfolio, but the problem is I didn't have 100 shares, and we do not have the ability to write covered calls in this.
Naked calls, baby.
I am not going to be going down that boat, but you can do that with your own money if you want.
Nah, Bullish Rippers has us. They got us covered. Just let Bullish Rippers know we'll be running with the naked calls this week.
Yeah,
No
can you
pain, no
throw
gain.
us a quick 30K if we have to buy back these shares by accident?
I cannot, but I'm sure the government can print it, so we'll be good. No worries at all there. All right, I want to get just two other guys involved real quick, and then I will move to the wrap up. Iron Mike, my guy, what's going on? Did you have any comments you wanted to throw in here? I know you were just chilling up here with us.
What's going on, my friend? Yeah, I just wanted to pop in. Thanks for having me up. Um, I honestly, I just wanted to poke in really quick instead of hopping on a call after this. We may have a special guest for Thursday. So I know you and I have talked a little bit about who we might have on. He did confirm he wants to be there Thursday.
Let's go. Awesome. Mark it down on your calendars, everybody. Thursday at 1 p.m. EST with Benzinga and some big guests. We'll be talking NFTs. Anything else, Mike?
That's pretty much it, my friend. Thank you for having me up. I'll see you Thursday.
All right, looking forward to it. Take care. And Wolfie, throwing it over to you. Been a couple weeks, I think, since we chatted. Well, I guess we chatted on Spaces together yesterday for like a second, or Sunday. But good to have you back. Any stocks on your radar this week?
Yeah, what's up, Gav? Yeah, I've been a little defensive. I've been kind of like a boomer. I've been on like Newmont Mining since it tapped 52. I was watching and I'm eyeing Boeing. It's been in a 3-year downtrend, and then it just recently kind of poked its head out of it yesterday. Today it kind of went back and is retesting the 200-day and the breakout point. So if we get a follow through above the weekly highs, it like confirms a 3-year downtrend breakout, which is really huge. It's especially huge for the Dow because those are price weighted. And then outside of that, I've been predominantly, outside of being boomer, I've been looking at some of these names that have surprised to the upside on earnings, and I've just been trying to play the all-time high breakouts. So if you just take a look at like Qualcomm, you take a look at, you take a look at Roblox, etc. Some of those names have been on fire. And so what I like to do with earnings, I like to make a list of names that are potential new momentum names. And so those are some of the names that fit that category. TTD, U, RBLX, QCOM, etc. And then there's one that hasn't followed suit yet because it hasn't broken out. Another one was Dash, but I don't like trading DoorDash. It always screws me. One that hasn't followed suit yet. It hasn't broken its all-time high, but it's close to the recent high it set after earnings is Airbnb. So these are some of the names that I think, moving forward could be some of the momentum names. And if you just put them in terms of like an ETF, it would be QQQJ, which is like the juniors. So it's like the smaller guys, the smaller tech guys. And I like names like this because a lot of times when you get these names that go sideways after being momentum names, a lot of the premium in the options kind of gets compressed. And when they break out, there's like a disconnect between that premium that they're trading at and what it could get to. And I like trading names like this over names like, smaller names like Macy's, for example, because these things move in integers. And so when you're right on them, if you just take a look at like Roblox, for example, it was like an $80 stock 10 days ago, right? And so today I think it topped out 120. Outside of that, you take a look at things like, some of the major ones like Tesla, for example, that have really wide ranges. And I like to map out some of the major moving averages, whether it be on an hourly time frame or whether it be on a daily time frame. And what you'll see in Tesla's case, for example, is when they break momentum moving averages, so the 20-day or the 5-day, they really there's like a real disconnect between how far they are and how far the next major or intermediate support might be. And I bring this up because stock market news just brought up Nvidia. That's another case of that. So it doesn't mean that it could get there. Obviously, these things can gap up. It could surprise us somehow, whatever. But I like to map these things out. And if you just go back and take a look at Tesla, for example, take a look at the weekly lows this week. It was like to the penny off the 200 hour, right? So you have this giant disconnect between short term and intermediate and long term. And once it broke down, it flushed, and then buyers step in at major pivots, whether it be the 50-day or whether it be, on an hourly basis would be a larger time frame. And I'll leave you with a couple others, I guess. There's like a constant rotation. So this week there's like a rotation into oil. So a lot of these oil names are continuing to outperform. There's a rotation into retail, which is also pretty interesting, considering some of these retail names are now, again, fit that motif that I'm talking about. These names that are like worth a couple hundred, and you can really kind of leverage the opportunity when implied volatility gets compressed on the options side. And then with all that being said, the same concept, there's two last points that I'm looking at. One's Apple. Apple's been in a downtrend, and it's kind of like finding a little bit of support. Options are pretty cheap relative to how they usually trade, since it's like the most widely traded stock out there outside of Tesla. And if it can break out, there's probably going to be a chase. And this is like a seasonality thing, considering retail is getting bought up going into Black Friday, going into Christmas, etc. Apple's one of those names that kind of typically follows that. Apple's also interesting because even if internals get weak, right? So if you see like 50 to 70% of stocks selling off, Apple hasn't gone anywhere in like several months. So I could envision a scenario where they buy Apple, sell everything that's run, and it kind of offsets some of that market weakness. And then the last one, and this is kind of like the last version of setups that I look for. Sometimes you get these washouts on earnings, right? So you get these stocks that are in these perpetual downtrends, and then they gap down on an earnings miss or not good enough or whatever. They flush out whoever wants to get out, and then the next day they reverse, right? And then they continue higher and start a new trend, etc. So some names that I'm looking at in that case are Oatly, for example. It got all the way down to like $10. And then Coupang, CPNG. Again, gap down, found buyers, reversed. And so if they could reverse and break out of a downtrend, you could see some momentum. But my favorite setups are those names that are, they get to an all-time high. It could be on the back of a catalyst, could be on the back of an upgrade, whatever. And they failed at an all-time high prior, and they break through. So you take a look at Shopify last week, take a look at Roblox, TTD, et cetera, et cetera. The last one is Roblox had an investor day today, I believe. Well, Teladoc, which has been beaten up, and it broke out of a downtrend and revisited that downtrend recently, went back and tested it. They have an investor day on Thursday. So if there's anything that's like positive that they could say, you could really see an acceleration back to the upside, considering that it did break out initially. And it just really has to hurdle those intermediate moving averages. And then again, falls in line with a lot of the same concepts. This was a really favored name back in COVID. The premium that you had to pay to own the options was significantly higher than what it's trading at today. So if there is anything that's good, and you do see these breakouts, you'll see like that disconnect between what they're trading at and what they could trade for. You'll see that sharp mean reversion to the upside. So that's a large word sandwich I just gave you, but that's kind of like what I've been doing, what I've been watching.
Really good stuff there. Definitely a different strategy than I feel like some of the others. And I appreciate you kind of elaborating on the exact of the strategy where you're talking about the all-time highs, failing the all-time highs, coming back, the catalyst. Just really good stuff overall. Appreciate you coming up and sharing, Wolfie. Real quick, couple of quick things I want to announce. So the first one is If you're enjoying the space, the reason I'm able to be on spaces literally all day, I hosted, I think, over 5 or 6 hours today, is because of the Wolf app. And Wolf is the company that I work for. You can see the account up here hosting with me. They make this all possible. It gives me the opportunity to reach out to all these amazing speakers, to host, to do so many things. So please, if you're not already, please make sure that you're following the Wolf account. I host from there very often. I tweet from there. It is basically the main catalyst in place that we are making things happen. And I'm trying to get us by some competitors. So if you could help us, that would be awesome. Definitely trying to pump that up, get a little bit closer to 40K. It's been moving really awesome, up about 600 today. With that being said, I also want to give a quick shout out to the audience. We got Black Box Stocks in here. I know that you have a huge Black Friday sale going on with Black Box Stocks. Mel's in here from Black Box Stocks. You heard her talking about dark pool and option flow. If you want to be using that, make sure you just click into Mel's bio. I'm sure there's more info in there. I think they have a massive sale coming up for the year long. So if you've been hearing us talk tonight, you're like, I wish I could see option flow. I wish I could see dark pool. I wish someone could make it easy for me. It's not, a lot of these services, they aren't just like, here's the stuff. They're willing to do one-on-ones with you, to get you into channels, to talk with you. So they in no way, shape, or form paid me for this. I don't even have an affiliate link, but I love Black Box Stocks. So big shout out to them, and they came in here and listened, so they deserve it. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and move into the wrap up. And let's just, get any closing thoughts, anything else that's on your radar moving forward. And really excited. This one ran a healthy 2 hours. And we also have, again, tracked everyone's individual picks, and we'll do our best to put those out shortly. And also, this space was recorded. Shout out Angie from Black Box Stocks and Wade, trader at Wade Stonks, for being here, making things happen. That way we can get up recordings. I already have the recording of today's 2 p.m. EST space going up. So if you want to hear analysis from TrendSpider J, Pattern Profits, and Richard Moglin and Juicy on 50 different stocks, I'm uploading that right now. It's actually already up on my YouTube and my Spotify, links in the Wolf bio, and I will have those up ASAP. Okay, let's go to some wrap up. Mel.
Appreciate the shout out, Gav. Definitely love watching money flow, and you're correct. I do have a link in my bio. You can certainly check that out. Also did a walkthrough of the platform, but just wanted to follow it up here with what we have on the rest of the week. We've seen some great market movers. I have recently started adding upcoming conferences and investor analyst days to my weekend regimen. So I do post a lot of that information there. Let's just kick it off with what's going on into tomorrow. We have Wolf, WOLF, your little namesake. They will be reporting Strong Stock, their analyst day, as well as Rock, TRTN. We go into 11:18 with a bunch of analyst days. Wolfie mentioned TDOC. We also have FIVN, ZEN, Cody, CTSH, and a few others. I do have that pin. And then Friday, we wrap it up with VERI and CASA. So definitely worth watching those charts. We tend to see some commentary that will come out of there that could move the stock potentially up or down. Definitely want to be watching the options flow. Make sure that you're aware and have those names on your watch list. Hope everybody stays green the rest of the week. It's been a pleasure. Make sure to follow all of the panelists. Thoroughly enjoy all the insights. I've definitely added a whole slew of names to my watch list personally, and looking forward to trading these the rest of the week. Thanks, you guys.
Pleasure. Always a pleasure. Hey, shout out to another listener, the boss of Bali that just popped in here. He's probably near the top of your screen because he's a baller. Good having you in here. Love to see the people that come in. Also, for anyone that was listening before when Iron Mike came in, there's great potential that the speaker that will be on our Thursday space has over 1 million followers. So I can't really share too much on that yet, but keep a lookout because 1 million followers, nothing to laugh at. What's up? Okay, the boss of Bali just came up. Did you have a comment you want to make? He might just be connecting still. All right, I think he's up here. What's going on, man? All right, I'm getting silent treatment. No worries. I know it takes people a
Sorry,
minute to
Gav.
connect usually.
Sorry, Gav, I missed that. How are you? How is everybody?
Living the dream, man. We're just moving into some wrap up, but I saw you popped in. If anybody's unfamiliar, check out the boss of Bali. Incredible what he's doing, running a full operation over there in Indonesia. Verified with 2 million on Instagram. So really cool stuff. Appreciate you popping in, man. Anything you wanted to share?
Thanks, Gav. I appreciate the intro. Yeah, I'm just visualizing having drinking mojitos on a clifftop villa and trading crypto and listening to your Twitter Spaces with technical analysis and analysis of the market. That'd be awesome. It'd be awesome. But no, we've got an awesome space coming up with yourself on Thursday, and we have a special guest. I'm sure. Don't know if Mike said, yeah, we've got Trust Wallet joining us, so it'll be awesome. They're partnering with us on our NFT project, and yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. So yeah, I appreciate you having me in here, and you guys are doing an amazing job.
All right, well, visualize me in that visualization and throw in an extra mojito. I appreciate it. All right. All right. Moving to my co-host at Stock Market News for some wrap up.
I like that response. It was quick. It was on your feet. It was a high quality response. But man, honestly, I wasn't gonna go into this, dude. But you were talking it there, dude. You do so many spaces, Wolf. First of all, you got to give the Gov account a follow. You got to give both Wolf and Gov account a follow. They're always doing spaces, literally 4 to 5 a day sometimes, 4 to 5 hours, pretty much every single day. It feels like. Quickly, Gov. Uh, it feels like you may have created a tool to help people keep all these spaces you're doing organized. Can you give me like 5, 10, whatever the quickest version of that is?
I have like an hour and a half of DMs to go through after this space, so I'm not going to hone on this too much.
Make it
But if you
more.
want to, if you want to be on a really cool tool, DM me your email and ask me on the spaces calendar so that you know when all of our spaces are happening, who the speakers are, who the topics are, and instead of being like, oh, I have to move something around to make this space because you see the tweet last minute, or you just like can't make it to spaces that you really would have loved to go to because they could probably help make you a lot of money, you should just add the spaces calendar and you'll never have to worry about that scheduling problem again. I show them all for the week ahead of time. So with that being said, back to you, Evan.
Yeah, last thing I want to add is just make sure you check out all the other speakers that are up here. Gav, Wolf, they only get the top quality and top level of speakers to come on here and give you guys great information. So just check all of them out.
100%. And make sure that your email is in that DM if you're sending it to me to expedite the process. And I'll probably ask you if you want to be on mine and Stock Market News' newsletters as well, because they're awesome and they're quick and they're short. And big shout out to him and everything he's doing. Being able to get Guy Adami on Spaces this weekend with Stock Talk Weekly and others, he's pulling major strings. So him and Bullish Rippers doing a ton of Bullish Rippers, the Green Raccoon up here, actually sponsor some of our spaces. So shout out to what they're doing. All right, let's keep this ball rolling with some wrap up. Mr. Danny Nas, the Pup of Wall Street, coming to you.
What's going on? Hey, I was wondering, do you do any like vocal training, maybe some lemon tea at the end of the day to soothe your vocal cords with all the talking that you do?
That's that's a great question. Not really. I don't know. You can ask my mom. I always like talking. She tells people I started talking when I was like 6 months old in like full sentences. So I don't know if I believe her, but who knows?
Hey Danny, he's
Got it.
on PEDs.
Nice, nice. We won't test in the spaces. I don't think we're past that, so we won't test in the spaces. Yeah, but just seriously, you should with all the talking you do, you should think about that. Maybe doing a little lemon tea at the end of the night, or get those vocal cords strengthened up. But in
A
any
little.
in any in any event, I digress. Yeah, I mean, nothing really much to talk about in regards to the stocks themselves. I think I said what I said. It's pretty much what I'm looking for into the end of the week. But what I will say is thank you, to you, Gav, and to the Wolf app for having me week in week out. These spaces have been great. Definitely big shout out to Stock News, and Stock Talk, and Vegas, and Mel, and Andrew, and Juicy. It's been a pleasure to be with these folks. I've come up in the Twitter spaces with them over the last 2 years, so it's an absolute pleasure to be with them. And I'll just leave you all with this. I always talk about this, but it's good to reiterate it because you never know if there's new listeners in the crowd on these Tuesday nights. But there's always going to be easier times during the stock market to trade, and there's going to be more difficult times. And notice I said easier, not necessarily easy. I want to make that a point. But weeks like this, where you have the monthly expirations on options, they're definitely not the week that if you're an inexperienced trader, you should probably just watch price action and sit on your hands. If you're a moderately experienced trader, you should probably scale down your positions. And if you are going to take those trades, just take profits, you know, more more quickly than you would normally take. And if you're an experienced trader, then you do what you do. I like what Stock Talks was talking about earlier. I play very much the same way. So, just be conscious if the market is chopping, if SPY and the Qs are chopping during the day, don't go and look to get into random trades. Sit on your hands, be patient, don't overtrade. The one thing that kills young traders and inexperienced traders is them feeling like they can sit in front of the computer and take trades all day. You're going to blow up your account, or you're going to give away all of your gains by doing that. So just make sure that you're being conscious about your trading. There are, I don't know how many exact days there are, trading days in the year, but there's more than 200 trading days in the year. You could take a couple of days off during these monthly expirations, during these Fed talks, during these big news events, because those days are going to be choppy. It's going to be much more difficult to trade. I'd rather trade on the easier days, because on the easier days, when I look back on my journal, those are the days where I make the lion's share of my gains. And it's the days that are choppy where I lose money, I make money, but it's never like those days where it's easier. So keep that in mind next time you go in to take a trade. And again, Gav and Wolfab, thank you so much for having me. Thanks to all my panelists, and thanks to everybody out there in the crowd for being with us on a Tuesday evening now at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Good luck in the markets tomorrow. Watch for that relative strength in the market, and let's get that money. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Danny. Wise as always, and appreciate. Danny put out so many charts. Make sure that you are following him if he was able to give you some responsive stuff. We'll be doing another space together, myself and Danny, on Thursday. We're going to bring back market psychology space at 5 p.m. EST on Thursday. We had a huge audience for that loved it when we did it 2 weeks ago. We're going to break down how to avoid groupthink. We're going to talk about best practices before and after the market opens to ensure that you are on your game. Awesome. Thank you, Danny. All right, Andrew, going to you.
Yeah, once again, thank you so much for having me on the space. And Gav, you're the Iron Man of Twitter Spaces. I don't know how you do it.
I get paid.
Yeah, I guess that's a good incentive. But yeah, thanks so much for having me on. These spaces are really awesome. I will say, as my closing remarks, just make sure as a trader, I totally agree with what Danny said on, a quick way to blow up is if, you're just sitting in front of the screens and you feel like you have to take, new trades on every single day. Tomorrow we have VIX expiration. That's going to happen in the early afternoon. And then the market can really move a lot more freely. And then, of course, we have our options expiration on Friday. Definitely just keep a watch on treasuries. I think that's going to be super important. And I think it's good to know, hey, if the market, legs lower, am I going to be in a position where I have to reduce my risk? Or am I going to be in a position where I have to add risk? And I think or I can add risk. So I think if you know the answer to that question, you feel comfortable, if the market goes up or the market goes down, I think you'll always be in a good spot. Right now, we're getting very close to the end of the year, and we're pretty much in the middle of a year-end performance chase. All these fund managers, nobody wants to lose their job. Everyone wants to outperform. So we see this dynamic where there's a lot of risk-on moves. We're seeing some of the EV companies, go crazy. And then we also have, this Fed taper and the reality of higher inflation that's kind of, causing a lot of people to be concerned. So definitely a fascinating time to be in the markets. I don't think anyone knows how, this crazy experiment is going to resolve. So I think it's just that much more important to have, a process you can really rely on. And at the very minimum, just having a risk management, framework or process. As long as you can follow that, you're going to have longevity in trading. It's something you can really do for the rest of your life. You can keep building your trading business bigger and bigger. That being said, have a great night, everyone. Once again, appreciate y'all for having me on tonight.
Always a pleasure. Congrats on 7K followers there, Andrew. All right, Wolfie, any final comments? I was going to go to Vegas, but I see she's reconnecting.
Yeah, no, I just want to echo a lot of things. First of all, thank you. Um, you're even though you're getting paid, dude, you spend a lot of time on these things. I'm not always on them, but I see it always on top of my screen. So shout out to you for that. I'm just again looking at some of the same things people said on here: Vixpiration, OpEx, all that stuff. It's kind of like tricky sometimes, but I'm looking for disconnects in implied volatility, and I'm looking for disconnects in intermediate term trends and longer term trends. I mentioned Teladoc having an investor day on Thursday, and then anything that's reported, with an upside surprise and just kind of gets bought aggressively or has a catalyst that causes it to break out to an all-time high. I'm monitoring that stuff. And then the last one, couple names, just Apple, for example. Again, it's on a downtrend. If it breaks out, it'll probably get chased. And then Airbnb, if it can break the recent range it's been in, I'm interested. Yeah, to you, Gav, and to everyone up here.
Awesome. Yeah, continuing to keep my eyes on Apple. I do have a call on them, so hopefully that gets some movement going. All right, Vegas, any final comments?
Yes, I just want to thank everyone for listening tonight, and just keep a watch also on Tesla. I think it's going to actually gap up tomorrow, so keep your eyes on Tesla and watching Netflix over 691. So keep a watch on that one too, because that was a wild one last week. On Friday, it went up like over 1,000%. So just keep a watch on that. So other than that, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight and for listening and for sharing, and appreciate all the great follows. And also I got some DMs from people from Australia and New Zealand tuning in tonight. So shout out to people in New Zealand and Australia. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the worldwide thrill and enjoyment of financial freedom is beautiful. Wolfie, got a comment?
Yeah, just real quick. That's she just brought up Netflix. That's a perfect example of what I was talking about. You get a stock that goes up and makes an all-time high, then tests an all-time high again and fails, and now it's sitting right back up against that all-time high range. And generally, when you have, let's say, like in this case, you have a 690 basically as your all-time high, and then you have $710 away. Generally, you'll get like that chase if it can push through that all-time high. So that's a really cool call out right there. I didn't have Netflix on my list, but I just took a look at it, and that's a perfect example of like something that can push through and can really compound on options front.
Sounds good. I am going to go to our final speaker for the night, which will be Stock Talk Weekly. Also, if anybody's interested, really cool stuff. I know we got a lot of Tesla bulls in here. Whole Mars Catalog, that's at Whole Mars Blog, puts out amazing videos about Teslas. And 8 minutes ago, they dropped a video. It's a full autonomous drive of them inside of a Tesla. They literally plug in a gas station, and it's like a 3.5 minute video, and the car drives itself from park to the gas station back. It's crazy. Really cool video. But with that sidetrack, going to you, Stock Talk Weekly. Would love to hear anything else that's on your mind moving forward, and excited for the spaces. I think we'll be doing some tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll be doing some tomorrow. And for everybody that wasn't here in the last one, me and Stock Market News and Gavin Wolf Financial will be there as well. On Friday, we have a Spaces with Guy Adami from CNBC and with Dan Nathan from CNBC as well. So that'll be an interesting space. We're going to kind of talk to them about how they feel about retail sentiment. And, we're going to talk to them a little bit about how they feel about trading some of these smaller cap or more speculative names, and kind of get their personal opinions on that and kind of gear it towards the FinTwit angle. So I think it'll be a really interesting conversation. I encourage you guys to tune in on Friday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern to listen to that if you're interested. But outside of that, this week has been fantastic start to the week, really good. But, in these kind of environments, I try to hold my cap on my head and kind of stay grounded because it's easy to get caught up in having, a bunch of big winners, on the same day. And, you kind of feel invincible and feel like, hey, I can't miss right now. But I try to just stay grounded. Like what helps me a lot is just like every day I try to revisit the thesis of every position I'm in. So, if it's like a position where, I am actively, holding it or swinging it or investing in it, or maybe if it was even a trade and I'm holding it overnight, in those cases, I try to, um, you know, like cater my risk strategy to that, but also analyze these companies day after day after day, especially if they're trades, and ask myself, like, is the technical gas still there? Is the fundamental gas still there? And then I ask myself those questions and decide if I should still be in the trade or not. And that helps like keep me grounded in these situations where there's a human bias when you have a big runner or a big winning call, or you made a stock pick and then it explodes higher. There's this human bias to like see how far it can really go. And to prevent myself from thinking like that, and to prevent myself from um, you know, I would say responding like that in terms of decision making and risk allocation, I just instead remind myself, hey, like, what's the thesis for the trade? Is it still valid or has it changed? And that helps me get in and out of positions. Like I do that with any bags I may ever be holding too. I typically don't try not to hold bags. I'm usually have a very defined risk going into every trade. But in the case where I am holding a losing position, asking myself every day if the thesis is still intact on all my positions, that really helps me get rid of positions that I may not have had a good cause to, or may not immediately have been obvious to me, like, hey, I want to get out of these positions. So yeah, I'm continuing to do that every day and just monitoring and entering new trades and staying in the ones that still feel good to me. I think we're still going to see a lot of chop going into the end of the year, and I think there are I think sectors and themes are acting really volatile still, which I like because, I want to see speculative high beta action. That's, what I really trade around and what I excel at. So I'm liking where the market's headed. I don't have a ton of macroeconomic or policy oriented fears until we're headed into the second half late next year. I think that's when we see more of an impact, in my opinion. But for now, I'm pretty long the market. I haven't really drastically reduced any of my exposure. Again, I'm staying very liquid on my trading accounts and really just trying to have the ability and the buying power to pursue these new theme opportunities as they pop up, because even some really good traders that I talk to regularly on a daily basis, about ideas and such, even a lot of them are just like, there's so much to chase in this market. Like, I'm over allocated or I'm stuck in these positions and I don't have liquidity. And, for me, I try to keep liquidity for that reason. There's days where I run into to issues with buying power as well. And I might have to dip more into margin than I normally want to. And, it can get out of hand quickly. So just be smart about your capital allocation. Know what you're buying. Know why you're buying it. Know why you're holding it. And understand like opportunity cost is just as important as risk management, in my opinion. Opportunity cost is really a form of risk management. Some people think, oh, I'm sitting in these stocks that are sideways for 6 months. It's all good. At least I didn't lose money, right? Like, I think that's a poor way of thinking, in my opinion. I would rather think, where's a better place that I can put my money that's going to give me a better return? So I try to constantly think like that. Every dollar I have allocated, I think like, is there a better place that I could put it? So, for new traders, I encourage people to think like that and constantly.
A great mindset to consistently be chasing. Okay, awesome. That was our speakers for tonight. Make sure that you are following all of them. Like I said, these people support themselves by doing this, so they kind of have to be good at it. So you probably should be following them. And a lot of them are great at answering DMs. If you tag them in posts, they'll probably comment underneath, give you a chart, give you some analysis. So the only way to get good at this is practice, skin in the game, things along those lines, right? Like it's same as anything else. It is a skill and it has to be acquired. So if that is something that you really want to have for yourself, financial freedom, right? Things like that, I highly recommend doing that, just that, and going ahead and following them. Now, real quick for tomorrow, just so everyone knows, set your alarm because 9:20 a.m. I'm going to be live for live option trading, going right into market open. So hop on with that. We'll be with exclusive trading. He's been great. I've been in his Discord several of these mornings as well, putting out some awesome plays. So we'll be on there, and you can catch us. And then at 12 p.m. EST, technical analysis space, that's going to be with Brian Shannon, who is literally the inventor of Anchored VWAP, as well as Ben from Pattern Profits. Both of them will be using the Trend Spider software and just mass charting. I think we're going to chart a bunch of cryptos as well, so make sure you tune into that. And then at 3:30 p.m. is now when the Stock Talk with the Street is going to be. That'll be with Evan. Stock Talk Weekly, I assume, will be on it. He's on it pretty much every week. Sarge is on it. Catherine Ross helps host. And then at 5 p.m. EST, we're going to go over SE earnings, Nvidia earnings, which will be out, and Butterfly earnings, as well as potentially some others. So just continue to keep your eye on. That's 4 spaces for tomorrow. That means I'll be on live for at least 6 hours. So if you enjoy that type of stuff, make sure you're following the Wolf account as well as this personal. I just switch back and forth. I'll be hosting from both of them as I continue to bump them both up. With that being said, wishing everybody health, wealth, success, and all that you are doing. Have a great rest of your evening. Get some good sleep. That is a very important thing that I've learned when it comes to investing. And I will talk to you all in the morning. Take care, friends.